to everybody. Welcome to our fourth meeting on actually it's teenagers yoga program. And think of something beautiful. And this is what we call our program. And we're discussing three aspects. One is the yoga side, the yoga postures. The second one is quiet time. And the third one is about discussion about how we think and how we make our decisions. So actually the idea of this program is to help children develop better decision-making skills. And there are many programs for teenagers all around the world because violence is a big problem. We have discussed that 63% of the violent acts are done by people between 15 and 29 years old. And so this age is very prone to violent acts. The second issue is prevention of teenage pregnancies. And those, you can say, teaching children to make responsible decisions. And the third one is about drug abuse. And so we want to help children avoid going down that path of drug abuse, of alcohol abuse, or any of these other risky behaviors. So there are programs all over the world, and governments are spending billions and billions of US dollars to help this age group manage themselves better. And actually, according to research, many of these programs do not work. And so you can show a movie about, okay, what happens if you take drugs? Or you can show a movie about teenage pregnancies. And the idea is you basically want to inform and scare people. The last time I mentioned the Professor Wilson, Timothy Wilson, I think his writing is very practical, and he says these programs do not work because they are not really helping children change the story of their lives. And so let's say that he gives the example, and it's very interesting. You know, he tells this that he writes that okay, there is a group of teenagers and teenage mothers. And the idea is you bring all these teenage mothers together, and they start to discuss how they manage their lives, and then they see that everybody is very pitiful, and they will not like to have a second baby when they are teenagers. The results show that many of these people who are actually meet people in the same situation as them, the other teenage mothers, that actually they start to glorify their situation, and they express that actually how beautiful it is to have babies at young age. And 80% of these people who attend these programs actually end up with a second baby before they are 20. Now the problem is not just this problem for these teenage mothers, it's also a problem for these children, because many of these children, they most likely don't do well at school, and they are likely to end up with risky behavior and end up with crime. And so these teenagers, you can say actually helping teenagers make better decisions is not an easy situation. Now, we are using our yoga psychology, okay? So this is not something that I invented. We're looking at the mind, and we see the different layers of the mind. And so a lot of our decision making is not really conscious decision making. a lot of our decision making actually is based on our unconscious patterns. Now, in our what we have been discussing so far is we have looked at the first layer we call the earth personality, and so different layers to our personality. We have said the earth personality, this is the one that is foundational. And so here, if we don't recognize our foundational desires, and we have discussed four, and we discussed, let me see, one second. We discussed physical longing, we discussed psychic longing, it means IQ, we discussed spiritual longing, means how to be a good person, how to help others, and we talked about spirituality. And so we have these four basic forces that make us. And so if we are not in tune with these forces, we become unhappy people. And so let's say if you are a student and you don't get a lot of opportunity to learn about self-discovery or about universal love or about something deeper within you, then it's very likely that you can become an unhappy person and you will not function properly. Maybe you get some physical ailment, maybe you become mental. And so the first step that actually from our yoga psychology point of view is get in touch with your deepest feelings. We call self-knowledge. Okay. The second we have discussed is the water side of our personality. So this means this is our environment. How do we deal with how other people affect us? So hopefully all the children grow up in a safe environment where they don't need to see violence, where they are protected, and where they are safe. Many children, and like I come from the Netherlands, and it will be shocking to hear, but out of 3 kids in the Netherlands, still 1 kid will be abused during the childhood. And so these are problems that happen all over the world. And how do we deal with it? Now we have discussed 6 emotions there. We can close up, we can ignore, we can avoidance behavior, maybe with addiction, or we can some other way, violence. And so that was the second workshop. The third one is the fire personality. The fire personality is about our independence. And so the water is about how others affect us, and the support group, and how we choose good support groups. And I think for many of us, that's a very important point. In yoga, we say satsang. And in yoga philosophy, satsang, that means good company, is second important after the master. And so you have your guru, you have your master, that is your inspiration. And if you cannot be with the guru, be with the people who are others, have this spiritual inclination. And so looking for a good support group is very important for people making good decisions. If you are in a bad support group, your behavior is very likely to be imbalanced. Okay. So the third one is how you make your own life. And so how you control your own environment, and you shape your future. You shape your career, you shape your self-protection. And so here in the water personality, you rely on your environment. Here, you shape your environment. And most of our education is actually to move out of this into our independence. And so our schools, they teach us how to become maybe successful as a professional or as a skilled person, and we learn something to stand on our own feet. No, so we have discussed these three aspects of the personality, and I think you get a very interesting picture. And so here we said your treasure is self-knowledge. Here your treasure is universal love. And so you never get enough love from your environment, but you can embrace universal love, and that love will help you manage whatever you feel abandoned. And the third one we said values. And so our independent behavior, we shape ourselves through our values. We are not going to be like Pinocchio. And you remember we talked about Pinocchio and how Pinocchio's story actually reflects how easy it is to get stuck in jealousy or in hatred or in so many different ways. Now today we are going to talk about the air personality. It's very interesting, and that the water personality is about discovering who you are. In the air personality, you want to discover who others are. And you want to discover the other person. You want to know how to build relationships, how to love, and how to come closer to others. And so the water person is about who you are, and the air person is about who others are. Now, in building these relationships with our environment, the main point really is you feel to be with another person or to connect with somebody else it gives you hope, and it gives you a better future. And so you connect with somebody, and you hope through this connection you can make your life and the life of others better. And so the first quality in this is hope. Okay, so in the pictures I sent you today, there is the sunflower, and the sunflower always looks for the light and turns where the sun turns. So this is the first quality that we would look for in another person. Does this other person give me hope or not? And being with the other person, do I become a better person, become more loving or not? Now, the resources I shared in your groups today, there is a hope test. And I've seen that Chitra is very sincere with her homework. It will be nice actually for you to try this hope test. And maybe you can do it with your children at home if you have bigger children. And so there is the hope test. And hope, this quality of hope is very important in life. And hope is not something that happens always naturally. We have to make hope, and you have to choose hope. And so discussing with children what is hope, and what are their ideals, what are their dreams, what is their future. And I give this workshop, and I remember especially in China, and especially when we talk to adults and parents, mostly parents, and we ask, what is your hope? And actually their hopes maybe are get a bigger house or maybe have a bigger car, and most people actually even don't dream about these things anymore. And so the idea of hope in some societies is not so strong. Now, people who have hope, they live longer, they are healthier, and they are more productive, they are better students. Hope has been researched a lot. And so actually helping children talk about their hopes is very important and beneficial to their lives. In your handout for today on page 2, I compare hope and wishful thinking. Okay, it's very interesting because nowadays, okay, we talk about positive thinking and all these kind of things. Hope is more practical and realistic. And so I hope to achieve something. It's not just a dream, you also have steps to reach your dream. And so hope, wishful thinking is you only think, oh, I want to become the president, I want to become a famous singer, I want, we have this, but what are the steps to achieve this? So hope is active, wishful thinking is more passive. And for hope, you set clear steps to reach your goal. Visual thinking is more like dreamy, not very specific. With hope, you have your goal, and if you have setbacks, you overcome your setbacks. There is a level of resilience. In dreaming is you dream and then you get frustrated and then you give up. And it's very interesting that, and this is, people have done research on this, that nowadays people like in a very famous system is called The Secret. You visualize what you want to achieve. Scientific researchers, they say, you visualize your dream and you've spent so much time visualizing your dream that you actually lose energy achieving it. And so you visualize and actually the energy you should be spending on how to get to that your dream is already wasted on the visualization, and you actually have a bigger chance to become failure. And so that though that those ideas are very popular today, okay, you just, let's say you open a shop and tomorrow is the opening. So tonight you visualize tomorrow that lots of people will stand in front of your shop. And you visualize and you visualize and you visualize. And you didn't spend time on doing advertising or handing out flyers or, announcing to the public. So when you come to your shop, maybe there's nobody. So visualizing and hope. Of course, visualization is part of hope, but hope teaches us the practical process. And if you fail, then you adjust your steps. And so hope is something very practical. And I think it is good to, when you discuss this with children, and talk about the dream. So let's say a child has hope to help stray dogs or poor children or handicapped children. Now, okay, then talk about the steps. So in your worksheets that we sent you today, there is a cloud that is your dream, but there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps to reach your dream. So I think when we talk about hope with children, we also talk about the steps to get there. And as a parent or as a teacher, I always think it is nice to talk with children about their future. And so now future doesn't mean like, okay, 10 years from now or 20 years. Okay, it can be part of that. But it also what matters is, what are you going, okay, now we have done this. And we see some problem, there we see some problem. What are we going to do next? And so we call that next thing. What is the next thing that we are going to do? So talk with the children about your next thing, about your next step. Okay, so where you are today and where you want to be and how you can get there. So I think talking about future with children all the time is something we just built in our conversation. And so let's say kids come to school and then they tell you, oh, I went for holiday, Okay, very nice. And they share the holiday. What is your next trip? Where do you want to go next? And so we always keep children and this idea, okay, today you have done this. What is your next thing? So children will not be stuck in the past. They always have something they can look forward to and they can aspire to. Now many children who make poor decisions are stuck in a past they cannot escape. And many of these people are stuck because they cannot see their own future. And so hope is the first quality that we try to discuss. Now, in the yoga psychology and in the cards I sent you, there are different aspects actually all connected to hope. And so let's say as a mother, your hope is for your children. I think most mothers put their hope on their children. Other people maybe have hope for society or have for some ideal. Okay, so if you have, you will also spend time thinking about how to achieve. You will worry about these things. So let's say you love nature and you want to save and plants, then you start to worry, what should I go about this? So that is the second quality. You worry about things. But here it is not an insecure worry, it is more a cognitive worry. And in the water personality, we also saw worry, but here it is more the worry of how to go about it and what is the best way. And you put effort, so you can sacrifice for your hope. And so that is the third card in your I sent you. Now, in this process, of course, there is a feeling of connection, empathy. And so maybe if your empathy is with animals or empathy is with your love is with your children, this kind of love is I love you because I want you to love me. And so there is a you know, I want to hug you because when I hug you, I feel happy. I don't know your experience. Sometimes you get all these hugs and the other person is very happy and you don't feel very happy. But anyway, you think, okay, let the other person be happy. So that kind of love is a love that is connected to the ego, okay? So the small self. And now, in this kind, so the relationships actually usually have these four aspects. And when we have relation with a human being, we love that person because that person makes us happy. And when that other person doesn't make us happy anymore, we don't love that person. So that's not universal love. It's not infinite compassion, okay? And so relationships, of course, you work hard for the relationship. There is sacrifice and there is hope. And so in a relationship, you have all these kind of qualities. Now, but connected to these positive, beautiful ideas, and there also is, you can say, hypocrisy. Now, hypocrisy can be sickening. Sometimes it can be positive. And so for example, you live with somebody and the person didn't flush the toilet, but you feel kind of sorry for that person because that person is maybe too busy. So you pretend you didn't see and you just help that person flush the toilet. So I don't know if you get my point. We don't want to challenge the other person all the time. And so it's a kind of hypocrisy. We say, oh, you're so beautiful. I love you. I support you. You're beautiful. You're perfect. But nobody is perfect. So maybe, okay, they forgot to flush the toilet. You don't worry about that. You just pretend it didn't happen. So there's a little level of hypocrisy. Hypocrisy becomes a problem if the whole relationship is hypocritical. Hypocrisy also is a problem, that when a person fights for an ideal, and then that person has a sense of what we call here vanity, and that person wants to be recognized for doing something good for others, then that is also hypocrisy. And so actually you see these relationships are not so simple. And there are, we want to keep relations good, and we want to work for an ideal, but within that work, within that sacrifice, there are other emotions. And we have to accept that because it's part of life. And if we know it, then okay, we can understand and we can work with it. And so it's actually very interesting that the heart, because we are talking about the heart, you have this love, and you have this, I want to sacrifice, I can do anything, I want to work hard, and I have hope. But actually connected to that, there is a lot of other things. There is also a level of selfishness. And so the other person, maybe in a relationship or maybe in working for an ideal, they still want some recognition. And maybe that person wants to use you. And so there is a danger. And so that's why nowadays, many relationships, husband and wife, they have their own bank account. And when I see that, I don't understand, because at home, all the money is managed by Momukta. But I see many people, they know this. I keep something for myself. In my relation, nothing anymore. But so there is connection. There is a level of selfishness, and there is a level of manipulation. And I think we all know. And so in a relationship, or in even working for ideals, for the bigger society, and the people, they want to achieve their hope, the ideal. But to achieve the ideal, they also may manipulate. And maybe in a very gentle way, maybe not abusive, but there's a level of forcing or pushing others to do what you like them to do. There also is depression. And so we have seen the water person has depression. We have seen the fire person has depression. And again, we see here there is depression. Now, depression actually doesn't always mean something bad. Okay, so it can be a sign you have to move on. Or it can be a sign there is something wrong. And so let's say you have a good relation, but still you are not happy, or you're really committed to your work for your social ideal, but you're not feeling fully satisfied. Then maybe it's time to go deeper into yourself. Emotions are forces of our consciousness, our infinite self. So if we have this negative, we are stuck somewhere, then it means we have to go deeper. The level where we are functioning now doesn't fulfill anymore. It doesn't mean we should give up relations, or it doesn't mean we have to give up our social work. It means we have to work probably deeper on ourselves. And so that is also an aspect here. Conscience, what is right, what is wrong. Yeah, I think that's also coming up here. So you see, there's regret, and we do things and we feel sorry about that. And then, of course, that's about it. Yeah, regret means ask forgiveness, and we are not perfect. And this is something I think we have to accept. And we work for ideals, but it doesn't mean we are ideal. The other day I was listening to a program about Albert Schweitzer, and I think it was one of his kids was talking of his grandkids. They were talking about Schweitzer. I think you know the story. This is a German man, and he was a religious person, and he played music very well. But he wanted to do something bigger in his life. And then he suddenly decided to become a doctor and go to Africa. So he went to Equatorial Guinea, and there he started a clinic. And he lived there, and he started a movement called Respect for Life. And so he was not really so stuck on his own religion. He said his philosophy was respect for life. And his children said, he was actually not a perfect man, but he had a very big ideal, and that made him great. And so we live for an ideal, it doesn't mean we are ideal. And so we have this relationship with another person, and we really want to make it work very well. But we have our limitations, and we ask for forgiveness. And so this is actually, if we can share this, these hard qualities are very nice. Now, so far, and we have already done the water person, there are 6 emotions. We have done the fire person, 10 emotions, and here are 12. So we have done already 28 emotions. And these are many of the common propensities we see in daily life. And most of us, we function on these 28 propensities. Now, as we are discussing with the children, we about our hopes and our ideals, and this is something you have to be open to see what comes. Here we have asked your children to fill in their dream, their cloud. What is their dream and how they get there? Maybe children say, I want to have a happy family. Maybe children say, I want to everybody love each other. Maybe they talk about other things, and you can see how the discussion goes. I don't know if you have noticed, but when we talked about the water personality, is we talked about how to deal with conflicts in families or abuse. In the fire person, we talked about the anger escalator and conflict resolution. Now here we come to the ideal, and here what I sent to you in your resources, and this is about peace. Okay, so in the world, there are societies where people don't kill each other. So there are societies, and this is scientific research, and I collected the pictures and made this poster. These societies, for 3 generations, there was no killing. And so that is how the anthropologists and the scientists who do research on this, they qualify a society. They're not really, they call it non-killing society, but I call them peaceful society, though they're not really also perfectly peaceful. And there are conflicts, but they manage their conflicts without violence. And it's very much something I want to bring into the heart of the children, is that we can choose our future. We can choose what we want to do. So let's say today, maybe children say, oh, the news is so bad, the world is terrible, and this and that, and this and that. From here, we can discuss with the children. You can choose your future. You can make a change. And you can discuss these societies which are here. You can go online if you want. The Amish in America, they are a non-killing society. And they have many problems, but they don't kill each other. They don't attack each other. In the Inuit Eskimos they are basically a non-killing society. Let me see, I just want to highlight few. Here, Kashmir, they are Buddhists, they don't kill. Traditionally, they don't kill each other. In Malaysia, the Aboriginal people are traditionally peace-loving society, and so in India you also have societies where when there are conflicts, they don't use violence, and sometimes maybe if there's conflict, maybe they avoid to talk about it, or maybe they move away. If they feel they cannot live together with this family, then they move somewhere else. So that is, but they don't fight, they don't kill each other. So in the world, there are societies which are different from what we see every day in the news. And so maybe there are other problems. So I don't say they are ideal societies, but what I think we should highlight is to the children is that we can choose whether we want to how we want to solve our problems. And I think this can maybe shape the discussion you have with your students. And so this poster I have sent to you. Now, in your resources, then there's a worksheet called Peace Pizza. I don't know if you've seen it. And so there is a pizza and you can have different toppings. And so it's not that you're going to put your cheese or your mushrooms. Here we want to put what elements can make peace. Okay, so become a peace pizza. And there's a rainbow of peace. So how to make peace with yourself, with others, and with the world. So this is an idea to discuss with children and to talk about the future. And there is a worksheet I put out the idea. They didn't really make a worksheet, but it's how to say hello to your future self, how you see yourself in the future. So these ideas, the purpose of these ideas is to help children focus on the future and how they can shape their future. And so if we want to help children get out of their negative thinking, of their destructive thinking, and the first step is know yourself. The second is get good support group, love everybody. The third one is have clear values. You have to choose what you stand for and don't be like the dream reader. I don't know if you remember the story from last week. And then here is have a future, have a plan for where you want to go, what you want to be. And if we have a firm focus on our hope, and we cultivate hope, we make hope happen, then I think our children are much safer than if we just talk about, I show you a movie about teenage pregnancy, I show you a movie about smoking, I show you a movie about alcohol, I show you a movie about violence and gangs. I think this Professor Wilson's idea is, he calls this redirect the story. And so redirect the story from how we see ourselves, learn to see ourselves in a new way. Now this is actually what we do in yoga. And when we do meditation, quiet time, is we want to stay connected to universal love and surrender our small self to this universal love. When we learn about values, we learn how to use this idea in every second of our lives. And so what this whole program I'm sharing with you is basically all inspired by this yoga philosophy. Now, so this is, I think this is already very focused lesson, and I want to share some stories. And there are many stories you can connect with. You know, the one story I first want to share is not a really children's story, but it's a real story. During the Vietnam War, there was a village was bombed, and some children got hurt. There were no doctors in the village. They called the doctor in from the next village to come. So they came, and they were Americans, and they saw that there was the problem, and there was one girl was bleeding a lot. So they tried to stop the bleeding, but they saw that if she would not get blood, she would die. Now this American doctor, she could not speak Vietnamese, and she only knew little French. So there were many people watching them. So she asked them in her broken French, who can donate blood? And nobody answered. And then she asked again, she pointed at the girl and she showed that this girl needs blood. And he says, who can give blood? And then finally one boy, he raised his hand and he nodded his head. So then the doctor asked the boy to lie down. And they put a needle and they tied up his arm and he started to cry. But then he stopped to cry. So they put a needle and again he was crying. And it was not because of pain. He was very sad. And now luckily there came a Vietnamese nurse. And she talked very nicely to the boy, said, don't cry, this will be very... And the boy became very peaceful. But then again he started to cry. And then the American doctor asked this Vietnamese nurse, why did the boy cry? I'm just taking a little bit of his blood. And the nurse said, this boy, he thought he has to give all his blood so that this girl can live. So he thinks that he has to die so that this other girl can live. And this doctor was shocked. And he says, how did this boy accept to give all his blood for this girl's life? And then the nurse said, because he loves her. And he wants her to live. And he can give his own life. And when I saw that story, actually I was emotionally very touched. And this boy misunderstood. But he was ready to give his own life so that somebody else could live. And this is actually the heart quality. But this is a kind of selflessness. It is even maybe higher than the heart. And so, but this is a kind of story we can share with children. What can you give to some other people? There is one story, and that's connected to peace. And this story I copied. I drew the pictures from another book. I forgot the name of the book. It's a long time ago. I thought her artwork was very beautiful. So this is the peace woman. And wherever she walks, flowers and the butterflies and all the animals follow her. And she has very, very long hair. And so one day she came to a village and she sat down. And when she sat down, all the children of the village came. And they sat down around her because, everybody loves peace. And when they are close to her, the children were feeling so joyful and so happy. And every day the peace woman would go to the river to wash her hair, and the fish would come to her hair, and she had to comb out the fish from her hair. And every day she would fly with the birds and go wherever she had to go to share her peace. So this was her situation. Now, she stayed in the village for a long time, and the people in the village were not happy because they saw the children were always following her. They were not staying home. So these people, they thought this peace woman is a danger. She is taking away our children. So they chased her away. They said, you go away, you leave our children to us. So she went far away to a mountain, and as she walked, with her went all the animals. As she walked, all the beautiful things followed her, and she stayed in a cave. Now the people, they saw her moving up to the mountain, and their village became very quiet. Not only very quiet, it became very dry, very sad, and very lonely. So the people started to talk that there's no more water, there is no more food, there are no more animals, and our children are sick and quiet. We have to bring back the peace woman. So one of them got on a horse and went up to the mountain and begged the woman, the peace woman, to come back. And he brought presents for the peace woman. And she said, I don't want to go back. He says, I think you want me because I bring you food. Wherever I am, there is water. Wherever I am, there is health. Wherever I am, people are happy. He says, you want my food, you want my house, you don't really want me. And the people said, no, we understand. Without you, we cannot have anything. He says, we really want you. Where you are, everything will be good. And that is the end of the story of the peace woman. I think it's a very beautiful story that when there is peace, everything can grow well. And when there is no peace, everything will become very difficult. And so we have to cultivate peace. And in education, there is a saying that if you don't teach peace, children learn violence. And so this is the story. So there are many stories, and I think somebody shared the name of this book. The name of the book is The Woman Who Outshone the Sun. Oh, thank you. Well, maybe I saw this book in your place. Anyway, so I think it's a beautiful story, and we choose peace, and we share peace. Now we can talk about what is peace, okay? So we don't want black peace. We want beautiful peace, a loving peace, a peace that is dynamic, and everybody works together to keep the peace to grow. And here is another story which you can connect to the subject, okay? And this story is called It's Not My Problem. And so there is a queen, and she's on the balcony of her palace, and she is eating honey cake. And some of the honey drops on the floor, on the street. And her assistant said, shall I go and clean it up? And she says, It's not my problem. Now there comes, so there's the honey. There comes a fly who wants to eat the honey. And the fly is going around the honey. And the assistant says, Queen, there is a fly who wants to eat the honey. Shall I chase away the fly? And she says, it's not my problem. And then there comes a lizard. And the lizard wants to catch the fly, and she wants to get the fly wants to eat the honey. And the assistant says, Queen, shall I chase away the lizard? And the queen says, it's not my problem. So then there comes a cat, and the cat wants to chase the lizard wants to catch the fly wants the honey. And the assistant says, Queen, there's a cat that wants to eat the lizard. Shall I chase it away? And the queen says, it's not my problem. So then there comes a dog, and the dog wants to chase the cat. And the cat belongs to the baker, the dog belongs to the butcher. And the assistant says, shall I chase away the dog? And the queen says, it's not my problem. And then the cat and the dog are fighting. So the baker comes and he wants to beat the dog, to chase away the dog. And the assistant says, Queen, shall I chase away the baker? And the queen says, it's not my problem. But when the butcher sees the baker beat up the dog, the butcher comes and beats up the baker. And the assistant says, shall I chase away the baker? And the queen says, it's not my problem. And the baker and the butcher bring their friends, and there comes a big fight. And the assistant says, Queen, shall I stop the fight? And the queen says, it's not my problem. And finally, the fight becomes so big that the whole city and the whole palace start to burn. And the queen says, oh no, the palace is burning, help me, help me. But the assistant runs away and says, sorry, Queen, it's not my problem. And I use this story to show that if we don't care about others, if we think it's not my problem, it's the problem maybe somewhere else in the world, then actually sooner or later the problem will come to our own door. And so if we see people suffer somewhere in the world, I think we should do our best, what we can, to help these people. There are other stories. I think for today, we have done already a lot. And I think every time I try to keep it focused and simple. In my teacher's guide, I write so much more, but I choose the main topics. I hope you got from today's discussion that part of our education or part of our training of teenagers is to talk about future. And it doesn't mean what you want to study in university, what do you want, all this kind of thing. Maybe what is your dream? What do you want to do next? What do you want to do tomorrow? Always talk about something they can look forward to. Hope changes the biopsychology of our person. So if we have hope, we have more endorphins, we have more dopamine, we have more serotonin, we can connect better to other people, we connect better to ourselves. And so with hope, we can actually prevent many problems. And so cultivating hope is one part of helping children make good choices so they don't stay stuck in a negative past. I don't know if anybody has any question. I know there are some in our China group, there are some English teachers. And I think it's these are all very good topics for making speeches. And so let's say we ask children ask them to talk about their hopes and how they want to achieve their hopes. Ask the students to make a speech about this topic. And so from storytellers, they become speech makers. And I believe that if we help children think about these things, they are going to become better students. And so if children understand, okay, my support group is not good, now, how can I choose better friends? And I don't know if you remember, we discussed this before. Is how to choose your friends. What can I do for my friends? What will I not do for my friends? What can I change? What can I not accept from my friends? So this is very good. These are good topics to discuss with children and ask children to talk about. And so I know that some of you maybe they have teenagers who come maybe once a week to your center. Maybe these are very good topics to discuss with them and ask them to speak out their thoughts, not just writing them, but learning to talk about them. So that, and this is a very important skill, learning to talk about ideas and our own thinking. I think this is very helpful for children. And so one side you can do your academic, and one side you can focus on the personal development. Anybody, any questions today? Anybody? Everybody's very quiet. Any question? This Zoom group, the lady who is there in the left corner, and my just Emmy from China. She helps me very much. She is my angel there. So she wanted to join Zoom today, so she can see all of you, or you can see her. Okay, so if no questions or nothing to share, then I think this is our discussion for today. And next week we will continue. I was planning to do 8 times, and so next week we will talk more about the layer of our personality. So thank you for joining, and thank you for the organizers, and